Professor Emily Watson adjusted her jacket as she walked through the gleaming corridors of Galactic University. The walls hummed with a soft blue light, and strange symbols floated in the air like living text. She had dreamed of this moment for years, being the first human to teach at the most prestigious educational institution in the galaxy. Her footsteps echoed as she approached Lecture Hall 7. Through the transparent doors, she could see her students already seated. The sight still amazed her. There were beings she had only seen in textbooks, tall creatures with skin like tree bark, floating jellyfish-like entities that pulsed with soft colors, and insect-like students with multiple arms taking notes on glowing tablets. Emily took a deep breath and entered the classroom. Dozens of alien eyes, sensors, and optical organs turned toward her. The room fell silent except for the quiet bubbling sounds from the aquatic students in their special tanks. "Good morning, everyone," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room's translation system. She heard her words converted into clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones for different species. "I am Professor Emily Watson from Earth. I will be teaching you about biology and life on my home planet." A student with purple scales and 3 eyes raised what looked like a hand. "Professor Watson, we have studied your credentials. Earth biology is quite different from what we know." Emily smiled and activated the holographic display system. "That's exactly why I'm here. Let me start with something close to my heart." She touched her tablet, and a large image appeared in the center of the room. The reaction was immediate. Several students jumped back in their seats. A crystalline being's body flashed bright red. 2 gas-form students quickly moved away from the projection. The image showed a large, 4-legged creature with pointed ears, sharp white teeth, and intelligent brown eyes. Its tongue hung out slightly, and its tail appeared to be mid-wag. "This is Max," Emily said warmly. "He is my roommate back on Earth." A student that looked like a walking tree branch began shaking. "Professor, that creature matches our database entry for a Class A predator. How many weapons did you need to subdue it?" Emily laughed, which caused more stirring among the students. Some species clearly found human laughter alarming. "Weapons? I don't use any weapons with Maximum. He's my pet, my companion animal." An insect-like student with multiple eyes clicked rapidly. "Companion? You mean it serves you as a servant?" "Not exactly," Emily said, scrolling to another image. This one showed her sitting on a couch with Max lying across her lap, his head resting on her arm. "Max lives in my home. He eats meals I prepare for him, sleeps in my bedroom, and follows me around the house because he enjoys my company." The silence in the room was complete now. Even the aquatic students had stopped their bubbling. A floating, jellyfish-like being pulsed nervously. "Professor Watson, you said it sleeps in your bedroom. How do you survive the night? Do you remain awake to watch for attacks?" Emily's smile grew wider. "Max doesn't attack me. He protects me. If someone tried to break into my house, Max would defend me. But most nights, he just sleeps at the foot of my bed. Sometimes he climbs up and puts his head on my pillow." She switched to a video file. The hologram now showed Max in Emily's bedroom, circling 3 times before settling onto a large bed, his head resting on a pillow next to where a human would sleep. "He steals my socks too," Emily added with amusement. "I often find them buried in his toy box." A student with tentacles for arms waved them frantically. "Toy box? You give recreational items to a predator?" "Of course," Emily said. "Max has rubber balls, rope toys, and stuffed animals he likes to carry around. His favorite is a little stuffed rabbit that he brings to me when he wants attention." She showed them another video of Max gently carrying a small, fluffy toy in his mouth, his tail wagging as he approached Emily's feet. The crystalline student's glow had dimmed to almost nothing. "Professor, our records show that creatures like this hunt in groups. They are pack hunters designed to bring down large prey. How is it possible that you coexist peacefully?" Emily paused the video and looked around the room at all the concerned faces, sensors, and optical organs pointed at her. She realized this was a much bigger cultural gap than she had expected. "You're absolutely right," she said. "Max's ancestors were pack hunters. But thousands of years ago, humans and his species formed a partnership. We gave them food, shelter, and care. In return, they gave us loyalty, companionship, and protection. Over time, we bred them to be gentler, more friendly, and better suited to life with humans." A student that resembled a large praying mantis raised a claw. "You deliberately modified apex predators to live in your dwellings." "We didn't just modify one species," Emily said. "Humans have companion animals from many different predator families. We have cats, which are solitary hunters. We have birds of prey. Some humans even keep reptiles that could be dangerous. The room erupted in various sounds of distress, clicks, whistles, bubbling, and harmonic wails. Emily held up her hands for quiet. I can see this is quite shocking to you. Perhaps tomorrow we can discuss how this relationship developed over time. For now, let me leave you with this thought. Max doesn't see me as prey or as his master. He sees me as family. As the students filed out, Emily could hear them chattering excitedly in their various languages. She smiled to herself, thinking about how Max was probably at home right now, waiting by the door for her return, ready to greet her with his whole body wagging with joy. This was going to be an interesting semester. The university's research center buzzed with nervous energy long after Professor Watson's class had ended. 3 students sat huddled around a glowing data terminal, their forms casting strange shadows in the blue light. The massive digital library of the Galactic University stretched endlessly around them, containing knowledge from thousands of worlds. Kira, whose crystalline body flickered with anxious orange light, pulled up file after file on her screen. Her 3-fingered hands moved quickly across the holographic interface. I have been searching Earth's biological databases for 2 hours, she said, her voice creating musical tones. The human professor was not lying. Tom, an insectoid being with compound eyes and 4 arms, leaned closer to look at Kira's screen. His antennae twitched nervously as he read. Show me what you found. Kira's body pulsed brighter as she opened the first file. Look at this creature they call cat. It is a solitary predator with retractable claws, night vision, and reflexes faster than most species in our database. Humans keep millions of them in their homes. The image showed a small, furry creature with sharp teeth and claws, sitting peacefully on what appeared to be a human's lap. The human was gently stroking the creature's fur while the predator made a vibrating sound. Tom's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. The predator appears to be enjoying the contact. How is this possible? Alex, a gaseous being who normally floated in a loose cloud formation, had condensed himself into a tight ball of worry. There is more, he said, his voice coming out as whistles through his vapor form. I access their entertainment media. Humans create stories and images celebrating these relationships. He projected new images into the air above their table. The aliens watched in growing amazement as hundreds of pictures appeared, humans of all ages cuddling with various predators, sleeping beside them, playing with them, even dressing them in colorful clothing. They treat them like offspring, Kira observed, her light shifting to a confused purple. Look at this image, a human child riding on the back of one of those large pack hunters. Tom enlarged the picture with one of his claws. It showed a small human child, no bigger than his forearm, sitting happily on the back of a creature similar to Professor Watson's Maximum. The animal's mouth was open in what their database identified as a play expression, and its tail was elevated in a position indicating happiness. The child shows no fear, Alex noted, swirling closer to examine the image. And the predator's body language suggests contentment, not hunting behavior. Kira pulled up more files, her crystalline form now cycling through multiple colors as her stress increased. It gets worse. Humans have something called animal shelters, facilities where they collect abandoned predators and find them new human families. They actively seek out more predators. Tom's 4 eyes widened in disbelief. Not just any predators, Alex said, accessing another database. According to these records, humans prefer what they call rescue animals, predators that have been mistreated, injured, or abandoned. The more damaged the creature, the more desirable it becomes to humans. The 3 students sat in stunned silence, processing this information. Around them, other study groups of various alien species continued their normal research, unaware of the shocking discovery being made at their table. Kira accessed Earth's historical records next. This relationship is not new, she said, her voice barely audible. Humans have been domesticating predators for over 15,000 Earth years. They have records of these partnerships from their earliest civilizations. Tom pulled up a timeline on his own screen. Look at this progression. They started with pack hunters like Professor Watson's companion. Then they domesticated smaller felines, various bird species, and even some reptiles. Some humans keep serpents with deadly venom. Serpents. Alex's gaseous form shuddered visibly. Those are among the most dangerous predators in our galaxy classification system. Kira projected an image of a large, muscular human gently holding a snake with distinctive warning patterns on its skin. The human appeared calm and happy while the deadly creature wrapped itself around his arm. The database says this particular species can kill a human in minutes with its bite. Yet the human shows no protective equipment, Tom observed. No armor, no barriers, no weapons. Alex drifted over to another terminal and began accessing Earth's medical records. I am searching for human casualties from these domestic predators, he announced. After several minutes of searching, his form began to glow with confusion. This cannot be correct. What did you find? Kira asked. The injury rate is remarkably low, Alex said, his voice filled with bewilderment. Humans are statistically more likely to be harmed by their food preparation tools than by their predator companions. Tom's mandibles clicked again. That makes no sense. Predators are designed to hunt and kill. Kira pulled up another file, this one showing brain scans of the domesticated creatures. Look at these neurological studies. The predators' brains show different patterns compared to their wild relatives. Areas associated with aggression are smaller, while regions linked to social bonding are enlarged. Social bonding? Alex swirled in tight circles. Predators forming social bonds with their prey? Not just bonds, Kira corrected, reading more data. According to this research, these creatures experience what humans call love toward their human families. They show the same brain chemistry patterns that humans display when caring for their offspring. Tom leaned back in his chair, his forearms hanging limply. So humans have somehow convinced apex predators to adopt them as family members. It appears so, Kira said, her crystalline body now pulsing with a strange mixture of fear and fascination. But there is something even more disturbing I found. She pulled up the final file, and both her companions moved closer to look. What is it? Alex asked. Kira's light dimmed to almost nothing. Humans do not consider this unusual behavior. In their culture, not having a predator companion is considered strange. They cannot understand why anyone would want to live alone. The three students looked at each other, the full implications of their discovery settling in. Somewhere in the galaxy was an entire species that had turned the natural order upside down, making friends with their predators and inviting them into their most private spaces. And tomorrow, they would have to sit in that classroom again, listening to Professor Watson talk about her roommate, as if it were the most normal thing in the universe. The next morning, Professor Watson entered her classroom with an unusually bright smile. Her alien students were already seated, but their postures showed clear signs of distress. Several had positioned themselves farther from the front than usual, and the crystalline student Kira was flickering nervously between orange and red. Good morning, everyone, Emily said cheerfully, setting down her teaching materials. I have some exciting personal news to share with you today. Tom the insectoid immediately began clicking his mandibles, a sound his species made when expecting danger. Alex the gaseous being condensed into his tightest possible form near the back of the room. Emily activated her holographic display and clasped her hands together with obvious excitement. This weekend, I am getting a rescue. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Kira's crystalline body flashed bright red and began making high-pitched ringing sounds. 3 aquatic students in their tanks began releasing bubbles at an alarming rate. Tom fell backwards off his chair with a loud clatter. A student with purple scales who had been quiet during previous classes suddenly spoke up. Professor Watson, she said in a trembling voice, what type of rescue equipment are you acquiring? Is there a dangerous situation on Earth requiring emergency response? Emily looked confused by the question. Emergency response? Oh no, nothing like that. I'm getting a dog rescue, a beautiful boy named Bruno who needs a loving home. She touched her tablet, and a large image appeared above the class. Several students immediately shielded their optical organs or turned away entirely. The creature in the picture was massive and muscular, with scars across its face and a head that seemed designed for crushing bones. Its jaw was wide and powerful, and even in the still image, the predator looked formidable. Isn't he handsome? Emily said, gazing fondly at the projection. Bruno is a pit bull mix who was abandoned by his previous family. He spent 2 years living on the streets before the shelter found him. A tree-like student began shaking so violently that his leaves started falling to the floor. Professor, that creature appears to have been damaged in combat. Are you acquiring it as a weapon? A weapon? Emily laughed, which sent another wave of panic through the classroom. Bruno isn't a weapon, he's a sweetheart who just needs someone to love him. The shelter told me he's especially good with children. Tom, who had managed to right his chair and sit down again, raised one of his forearms with obvious effort. Professor Watson, you said this predator was abandoned and lived in hostile conditions for 2 years. Would this not make it more dangerous and unpredictable? Emily's expression softened with sympathy. That's exactly why Bruno needs a good home. Animals who have been mistreated or abandoned often have trust issues, but with patience and kindness, they learn to love again. The more difficult their past, the more rewarding it is to help them heal. She swiped to another image showing Bruno at the shelter, gently accepting treats from a human volunteer. Despite his intimidating appearance, his tail was wagging and his body language suggested happiness rather than aggression. You see, Emily continued, Bruno may look scary to you, but is actually quite gentle. The shelter workers told me he loves belly rubs and gets excited whenever someone throws a tennis ball for him. Kira's crystalline form was now pulsing so rapidly with distress that she was creating a strobe light effect. Professor, you are voluntarily introducing a damaged apex predator into your dwelling place. Have you considered the statistical probability of survival? Survival? Emily seemed genuinely puzzled. Kira, I'm not in any danger from Bruno. If anything, he'll probably be afraid of me at first. Rescued animals often take time to trust new people. Alex managed to expand slightly from his compressed state. You mentioned children. Are you planning to expose young humans to this creature as well? Emily nodded enthusiastically. Oh yes, Bruno will meet my neighbor's kids next week. The shelter specifically noted that he's wonderful with little ones. Some dogs get nervous around children, but Bruno actually seeks them out for cuddles and playtime. A student who resembled a large mushroom began releasing spores into the air, his species equivalent of hyperventilating. Professor Watson, in our databases, creatures like this one are listed as having bite forces capable of crushing metal. Yet you speak of introducing it to the most vulnerable members of your species. Well, yes, Emily said, switching to a video file. But look at this footage from the shelter. The hologram now showed Bruno playing with a small human child. The massive predator was lying on his back while the child rubbed his belly. When the child stopped petting him, Bruno gently pawed at the air, asking for more attention. His mouth was open in what their translation systems identified as a play expression, and his tail moved constantly. You can see how careful he is with the little girl, Emily pointed out. Even though Bruno could easily overpower her, he's incredibly gentle. He knows she's smaller and more fragile, so he adjusts his behavior accordingly. The classroom had gone completely silent except for various species sounds of distress. Several students were accessing their personal communication devices, likely to contact their families or advisors about this alarming situation. Tom finally managed to speak again. Professor, your species actively seeks out the most dangerous, psychologically damaged predators and brings them into your homes where your offspring live. We don't see them as dangerous, Emily explained patiently. We see them as family members who had bad experiences and deserve a second chance. Bruno didn't choose to be abandoned or mistreated. He just needs someone to show him that not all humans are cruel. She advanced to another image showing Bruno wearing a colorful collar with a small metal tag. I've already bought him a collar with his name on it, plus some toys and a comfortable bed to put in my bedroom. Your bedroom? Kira's voice came out as a barely audible whisper. Of course, Emily said. Where else would a family member sleep? Though knowing rescue dogs, Bruno will probably end up on my bed rather than in his own. They tend to be extra affectionate because they are so grateful for love and security. As the class ended, the alien students filed out in stunned silence. Several were already composing urgent messages to their home worlds, warning about the psychological instability of the human species. Others were scheduling emergency counseling sessions to process what they had learned. Meanwhile, Emily packed up her materials, completely unaware of the panic she had caused. She was thinking about stopping by the pet store after work to buy Bruno some special treats for his arrival day. After all, she wanted her new family member to feel welcomed and loved from the very first moment he walked through her door. Professor Watson entered her classroom the following day to find her alien students arranged in what appeared to be defensive positions. Many had moved their seats toward the emergency exits, while others had activated personal protection shields. The atmosphere was thick with tension and the various stress pheromones of different species. I can see you're all quite concerned about my pets, Emily said, noticing their nervous behavior. She walked to her teaching station with calm confidence. Since words don't seem to be enough, let me show you exactly what life with these dangerous predators actually looks like. Several students visibly flinched when she activated the holographic communication system. Kira's crystalline body had dimmed to barely visible levels, while Tom's antennae were pressed flat against his head in obvious distress. I'm going to call home, Emily announced. You can see for yourselves how these creatures behave in their natural domestic environment. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Emily's living room in real time. Comfortable furniture filled the space, along with colorful toys scattered across the floor and what appeared to be feeding bowls near the kitchen entrance. "Hello, James," Emily called through the communicator to someone off-screen. "Are the boys available to meet my students?" A human male voice responded from somewhere in the house. "They've been waiting by the door since they heard your voice. I think they know you're talking to them." Suddenly, a massive form bounded into view of the camera. Max, the German Shepherd from Emily's earlier photos, filled the holographic projection. Several students immediately pushed their chairs backward, with one aquatic being releasing a cloud of ink into his tank. "Max, sit," Emily's voice said gently through the speakers. The enormous predator immediately dropped his hindquarters to the floor, his mouth open in what appeared to be a happy expression. His tail moved rapidly back and forth, creating a rhythmic thumping sound against the furniture. "Good boy," Emily praised. "Show my students how you shake hands." Max lifted his right front paw and held it in the air, waiting patiently. When James appeared on screen and gently grasped the paw, Max held perfectly still for the gesture before lowering his leg. Tom's mandibles began clicking uncontrollably. "The predator is performing trained behaviors," he whispered to Kira. "It responds to verbal commands." Their amazement deepened when a small human child, no older than 5 by their estimates, toddled into the camera's view. The alien students collectively gasped as the tiny, defenseless creature approached the massive predator without any fear or hesitation. "Watch this," Emily said proudly. Max immediately lowered himself to the ground, making his body as small as possible. The child climbed onto his back as if the dog were living furniture, grabbing handfuls of fur for balance. Max remained completely motionless except for his gently waving tail, allowing the child to settle comfortably on his back. "The child is using the predator as transportation," Alex observed in a stunned whisper. "And the creature is allowing it." "More than allowing," corrected a mushroom-like student. "Look at its body language. The predator appears to be enjoying the interaction." The demonstration continued as Bruno, the scarred pit bull from yesterday's photos, entered the frame. Several students covered their optical organs, unable to watch what they expected to be a violent scene. Instead, Bruno approached carrying a soft, colorful toy in his powerful jaws. "Bruno, bring it to Emma," James instructed. The muscular dog walked carefully to where a young girl was sitting on the carpet. He gently placed the toy in front of her, then sat down and waited. When the child threw the toy across the room, Bruno retrieved it immediately and brought it back, his entire body wiggling with excitement. "He's playing," Kira said in disbelief, her crystalline form flickering with confusion. A damaged predator is engaging in recreational activity with a human child. The most shocking moment came when an orange cat jumped onto the counter in full view of the camera. The feline creature fixed its gaze directly on the communication device, as if staring at Emily through the connection. "Hello, Whiskers," Emily cooed through the speakers. The cat began producing a deep, rhythmic rumbling sound that the translation systems identified as purring. When James reached out to stroke the animal's fur, it arched its back to press against his hand, clearly seeking more contact. "The feline is requesting physical affection," Tom observed, his voice filled with wonder. "From a creature that could easily be its prey." Emily's voice came through the speakers again. "James, can you show them how Bruno acts during his afternoon nap?" The camera angle shifted to reveal Bruno lying on his back on a large cushion, his 4 legs pointed toward the ceiling. His mouth was slightly open, and soft snoring sounds indicated he was deeply asleep. His muscular body was completely relaxed and vulnerable. "Predators don't sleep exposed like that in the wild," noted a student with tentacles. "That position would leave him defenseless against attack. He clearly feels completely safe in this environment." The demonstration reached its peak when James picked up a brush and began grooming Max's fur. The large dog leaned into the touch, his eyes half closed with contentment. When James stopped brushing, Max gently nudged his hand with his nose, asking for more attention. "Look at the trust displayed here," Emily said through the communicator. Max is allowing James to touch his most vulnerable areas, his neck, his belly, behind his ears. These are places a wild predator would never expose to potential threats. A young human girl appeared on screen and began playing a game with Bruno, hiding behind furniture while the dog pretended to search for her. When he found her, instead of attacking, Bruno gently licked her face while she giggled with delight. The predator is engaging in mock hunting behavior, Alex realized, his gaseous form swirling with excitement. But instead of capturing prey, he's providing entertainment. As the call ended, Emily looked around at her stunned students. You see, my dangerous predators spend their days playing with children, napping in sunny spots, and competing for the best cuddle positions on the couch. She switched off the communication system and faced her class. Max will spend this evening lying across my feet while I grade papers. Bruno will probably steal one of my slippers and bring it to me as a present. And Whiskers will sit on my keyboard, making it impossible to work, because he wants attention. Tom slowly raised one of his claws. Professor Watson, these creatures show complete submission to humans. How did your species achieve such total dominance over apex predators? Emily smiled and shook her head. That's where you're wrong, Tom. We didn't dominate them. We joined their family groups, and they joined ours. What you witnessed wasn't submission, it was love. The word hung in the air as the alien students tried to process this revolutionary concept. Predators and prey, living together not through conquest or control, but through mutual affection and trust. As they filed out of the classroom, each student carried with them the image of the most powerful predators in Earth's databases, choosing to be gentle, protective, and loving toward the creatures they could easily destroy. Professor Watson stood before her alien students for what would be their final lesson together. The classroom atmosphere had changed dramatically over the past week. Where once there had been fear and confusion, now there was intense curiosity. Students who had previously cowered near the exits now leaned forward in their seats, eager to understand the remarkable relationship between humans and their animal companions. Today, I want to show you the full picture, Emily said, activating her holographic display system. You've seen my pets at home, but what you haven't seen is how this partnership between humans and animals has shaped both our species throughout history. The first image that appeared was ancient, a cave painting showing primitive humans sitting around a fire with wolf-like creatures nearby. The animals weren't chained or caged, but appeared to be sharing the warmth and safety of the human camp. This painting is over 30,000 years old, Emily explained. It shows our earliest ancestors beginning their relationship with the species that would become dogs like Max and Bruno. But this wasn't about humans conquering wolves, it was about two intelligent species recognizing they could help each other. Kira, whose crystalline form had returned to its normal bright glow, raised her hand. How did this partnership begin, Professor Watson? Imagine you're a prehistoric human, Emily said, advancing to the next image showing a harsh, dangerous landscape. You're surrounded by larger predators, harsh weather, and constant threats. Now imagine you're a wolf whose pack has died, leaving you alone and vulnerable. Both species needed allies to survive. She showed them a recreation of early humans sharing food scraps with wild wolves around a campfire. The wolves that were less aggressive and more curious about humans got fed. The humans gained early warning systems and protection from other predators. Over thousands of years, the wolves that lived with humans began to change. Tom clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. So the predators evolved to become more compatible with human behavior. Exactly, Emily said, displaying brain scans comparing wild wolves to domestic dogs. But here's the remarkable part, humans changed too. We developed stronger nurturing instincts and better communication skills with other species. This partnership made both humans and dogs more successful. She moved to images from throughout human history, ancient Egyptian paintings showing cats protecting grain stores from rodents, medieval knights riding into battle with their loyal horses, ship captains navigating oceans with their faithful dogs. The relationship spread beyond just dogs, Emily continued. Humans began partnerships with many different species. Cats helped protect our food supplies from pests. Horses allowed us to travel great distances and carry heavy loads. Birds helped us hunt and delivered messages across vast distances. Alex, the gaseous being, swirled with interest. But Professor, these partnerships seem to benefit humans more than the animals. How is this not exploitation? Emily smiled and switched to a modern video. It showed an elderly human man sitting alone in a quiet room. He appeared sad and isolated until a golden-colored dog entered and placed his head on the man's lap. The human's entire demeanor changed, his face brightened, his posture straightened, and he began speaking gently to the animal. This is Henry, Emily explained. He's 92 years old and lives alone. His dog, Charlie, isn't just a pet, he's Henry's companion, his reason to get up each morning, and his connection to joy. Charlie gives Henry purpose and love. In return, Henry gives Charlie food, shelter, medical care, and endless affection. She showed them more videos. A young girl with a medical condition whose specially trained dog detected her seizures before they happened, alerting her family to get help. A soldier returning from war, struggling with trauma, finding peace and healing through caring for a rescue dog who had also experienced trauma. You see, Emily said, modern humans don't need these animals for survival anymore. We have technology for protection, transportation, and communication. We keep animals now for the same reason they stay with us, because we love each other. A student who resembled a large flower petal raised what might have been an arm. Professor Watson, how do you know the animals truly experience love and aren't simply following programmed behaviors? Emily displayed brain imaging studies showing the neurochemistry of bonding in both humans and their companion animals. When a human pets a dog, both brains release the same chemicals associated with love and attachment that humans produce when caring for their own children. When a cat purrs while being stroked, it's experiencing genuine pleasure and contentment. She showed them a video of Max from her own home. The camera captured the moment Emily returned from work each day. Max's entire body language changed when he heard her key in the door, his tail wagged frantically, he spun in circles, and he brought her his favorite toy as a welcome gift. This isn't trained behavior, Emily pointed out. No one taught Max to bring me presents when I come home. He does it because he's genuinely happy to see me. Just as I'm genuinely happy to see him. Tom leaned back in his chair, his multiple eyes reflecting deep thought. So humans didn't conquer Earth's predators through superior strength or intelligence. No, Emily said firmly. We succeeded through empathy, patience, and the willingness to see potential friends instead of enemies. Where other species might have viewed wolves as competitors to eliminate, humans saw possible allies to embrace. She displayed her final image, a montage of human-animal partnerships from around the galaxy that had been documented by other species. Creatures working together, playing together, comforting each other across dozens of different worlds. The most remarkable discovery, Emily said, is that this ability isn't unique to Earth. Throughout the galaxy, wherever humans have settled, they've formed these bonds with local species. It seems to be fundamental to who we are as a people. Kira's crystalline body pulsed with warm, golden light. Professor Watson, you're saying that humanity's greatest strength isn't your technology or your intelligence, but your capacity to make friends. Emily nodded. We turned Earth's most dangerous predators into our most loyal companions not through force, but through friendship. We offered them something better than a life of constant hunting and survival, we offered them family. Alex expanded into his most relaxed formation. And now, somewhere on Earth, your predator Max is waiting for you to come home. Exactly, Emily laughed. And when I get there, he'll act like I've been gone for years instead of just a few hours. He'll bring me his toy, steal my favorite shoe, and spend the evening trying to convince me he deserves extra treats and belly rubs. As the alien students prepared to leave, they carried with them a new understanding. They had discovered a species that had looked at their natural enemies and seen not threats to be destroyed, but friends waiting to be made. In a galaxy often divided by fear and suspicion, humans had shown that even the most unlikely relationships could flourish through patience, kindness, and love. The lesson was clear: sometimes the greatest victories come not from conquering your enemies,